Hello.
Hi, what's up?
Welcome back, Pop Girlies, to another episode.
We'd like to welcome you.
We want to
Welcome.
welcome.
We did that in maybe the folklore episode. I don't think, did we ever explain what that's a reference to?
We just have to say three words. Mrs. Kasha
Kasha
Davis.
Davis.
Yeah.
That's
Drag
all we have to
Race.
say.
Well, for the straights who listen.
Well, look it up
Yeah.
if you haven't. I mean, come on.
Yeah. Come on, get with it. But like, we'd like to welcome. We want to welcome you.
There's always room for kindness.
It's
There's
what,
always time for kindness.
it's what Caroline Polachek says when you go to her island. That is one of the funniest tweets I've ever seen in my entire life.
Welcome.
We, did I ever show you guys that tweet? I think about it.
Oh, not only did you show it to me, I think you retweeted it like 4 times.
I probably have. I should retweet it again right now. It's so funny.
Welcome to my island.
We'd like to welcome you
That has to be like a top 5 funniest moment in all of the
on Drag
franchise.
Race. Oh,
On Drag Race.
it has to. It's
Yeah.
also that she goes home just for saying
For
welcome.
saying welcome.
We'd like to
We wanna
welcome
welcome.
you.
And then they like her reasoning for going home is because she slurred speech in the beginning of the challenge, meaning she said welcome instead of welcome.
Who's that other person at the bottom? Is it Candy Ho?
Yeah.
That's her name,
And it
right?
was and it
Yes.
was the green week where so Kasha was wearing like a green gown dress, like with money signs all over it. Do you remember
Yeah.
that?
Oh,
I
yes.
remember that dress.
I remember that. Oh my gosh.
Well,
Remember-
there's
I
a
think
season.
that was the week.
There's a season 7 truther among us. Maria loves season 7, don't you?
Oh,
Season
I love
7
season 7 too.
Yeah, season 7 was the first season of Drag Race I ever watched.
Oh, Drew, I didn't realize that you loved it too. I thought you
Oh,
just loved
love.
Glamazonian Airways.
Well, I was just about to say Glamazonian Airways is one of my favorite episodes ever.
Yeah. So good.
I don't know.
Season
Maria,
9 is my favorite though.
you need to watch
Yeah.
season 5 if you want
I
to
know.
be a real.
I know. I'm fake, I guess.
You, yeah, you are. Yeah. Okay. How's
Hot
everyone
tracks.
doing? Oh, hot tracks. I was gonna do a
Well,
little
yes.
check-in, but sure.
Oh.
Just because the album that we're about to talk about is a little mentally challenging.
We have a thesis on our hands.
Well,
Right.
that, but like also just like how are we doing? Like how are we feeling today? Drew, how was your day?
It was pretty good.
Maria?
It was pretty good. No, it was good.
Good.
Work's been busy, but I am being optimistic about it.
Are you
Radically
being
optimistic.
radically optimistic?
I'm being radically optimistic about it.
That's good.
Add
But
that to
it's-
the list.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
Oh,
My cats just did a fucking Lion King stampede next to me.
gosh.
Jesus. They're cuckoo. They're nuts. Okay. Now let's
Yeah.
do hot tracks.
well, wait, Levi.
Well, how are you?
How are you?
Oh. Oh yeah, I'm good. I had a fine day. I spent a lot of my day prepping in this and work is really busy in October and it's been a bit calmer, kind of the opposite of you, Maria, I guess. Which is nice. And I've been looking forward to doing this all day. I'm really, really excited to talk about this album.
Yes.
Yay.
But before we do that, we all know the
Yes.
drill.
We know it.
I feel like Maria
know it.
never starts the hot tracks. I think that Maria should
She
start this
never
week.
does.
Well, I'll go ahead and start then for our hot tracks, but I'll say to preface because I had some things to choose from, but if I chose some other songs, I'd be repeating artists and I wanted to keep it fresh.
You can repeat.
Yeah, I have
Well,
done
yeah, but
I've done Madonna 3 times.
That's right.
And I
Well,
was right
I mean, still.
every time.
Exactly. Yes.
You just don't want to be like us.
Have you repeated artist, Drew?
Yeah, I think I did Lizzie McAlpine twice.
Oh, you did.
did.
And did you do Sabrina twice or am I making that up?
I don't think so.
Okay.
Okay. Well, I wanted to choose a new artist.
Okay.
But it comes with some hesitation because this is a male artist and we know what happened the last time.
I have
we
a
gave
mail as well.
Yeah, the last time we did a male artist on the episode, Trump got elected.
Yes. Thank you. That was my punchline.
Yeah. Maria, you kind of caused that low key.
That's what that's what I was gonna say.
Oh, sorry. I didn't know you had a
Mm.
bit. I thought that was the bit.
I was doing a bit.
Sorry.
I
but
mean,
it's
does it get
okay.
worse?
Well, no, that's the point.
Oh.
So it's with hesitation that I give another man a platform on our podcast. However, I've been catching up this week on some new music that's been released within the last couple months or so that I hadn't gotten around to listening to yet. And an artist that I've really loved over the last couple years is Leon Bridges. And I was introduced to him through his collaborations with Krungbin. Him and Krungbin have two like twin EPs called Texas Sun and Texas Moon that are really, really great. Krungbin's
Yes,
one of my
iconic
favorite
covers.
bands. Super great. Yeah. So love the both of them. And Leon Bridges just released a new album this October, early October, called Leon. And I just got around to listening to it, and it's really great. Um, Super cool sound. It's very crisp and clean. Very this kind of like sophisticated kind of singer-songwriter, acoustic, jazzy kind of sound. And the song that's my hot track is called That's What I Love by Leon Bridges. Really, really fun. And I've been working to his music a lot, and it's been getting me in the zone like no other. Like how Ray of Light has gotten me in the zone so good for working during the workday. This is also helping me like really hone in my focus while I'm also listening to great music. So that's my hot track.
I'm happy that that's your hot track, and it's like a different kind of music than I feel like we've talked about.
Yeah.
Yeah. He's great in the Casey Musgraves Christmas special.
What do they sing together?
Um, I don't. I think that's an. Oh yeah, it's a new song. I think it's one of Casey's songs.
Oh,
I
cool.
think it's called "A Present Without a Bow." I think
Well, sure.
it's really good, and he's in like the actual. Yep, "Present Without a
Like the
Bow."
special.
Yeah, so they like he's in it. So it's
Oh,
like my
cool.
favorite Christmas thing too. So love
Oh,
it.
yeah. Well, he's great. So yeah, I definitely recommend checking him out, but that's my specific hot track. So yeah, who wants to go
Cool.
next?
I'll go. Mine is, it's funny. It's the first time this artist has been a hot track, but it's kind of crazy because this is one of our top three girls. And I'm talking about Miss Taylor Swift and my hot track. I've been in a celebratory mood, and considering the Grammy nominations, a lot of people are not happy about the Grammy nominations. That's the only good thing that's happened in November. I am very pleased with how they went down. Um, and I've been listening to Fortnite a lot. So I hadn't listened to Tortured Poets in maybe about like a month and a half or so, because I've been like so deep into like my Madonna craze. And then like there's been other moments like the Halsey album that we're about to talk about came out. And so then there was a lot of time that I was listening to that, and just stuff like that kept coming up. So I hadn't listened to it in a while. And listening to it again, I was just reminded like how much I love it and how incredible I think it is. And like specifically Fortnite. Fortnite is one of the songs to me that like I genuinely think it gets better every single time I listen to it. Um, it has such a beautiful build over the course of the song. I think the way that her and Post Malone play together is, I think their vocal chemistry is really beautiful. I think they sound great together. I think the melody of that chorus is just like so catchy and unreal. I love it as an opener to the album. I think it's a great opener. I think the opening lyric is like one of my favorite opening lyrics to an album ever. The I was supposed to be sent away, but they forgot to come and get me. And then the outro to me is like God tier Taylor. Um, there's a specific moment. It's when because Post does the first part of the outro by himself, and then Taylor comes in, and right when that transition happens, there's a moment where all of the synths like flare up, and like Taylor comes in with Thought of Calling Ya, and I ascend to the highest level of heaven every single time that comes on. So that is my hot track. I worked out to that song for about an hour this morning, just on repeat. So yeah, love Fortnite. Um, do I think it's going to win any Grammys? Well, I think it's going to win Best Music Video. I do think it's going to win that. Do I think it's going to win anything else? Well, no.
Well, no.
Um, but uh, in the Levi Grammys, it wins everything. It wins Best Rap Performance. It wins Best Country Duo. It wins Best Musical Theater Album. It wins producer of the year classical. It wins everything. So,
Right.
uh, Fortnite, you're beloved.
Love.
Okay, Drew.
Cool. Mine is I've also never said this artist before, and it's a man. Um, but I'm actually really excited. His album comes out tonight. It's Heart of Gold by Shawn Mendes. So I have been a huge Shawn Mendes stan since like 2018. He's like I just love him. He's like the best. Um, yeah. And I think this is his best song that he's ever put out. So major
Whoa.
T. Yeah.
And Drew, you weren't, am I remembering right that you didn't love the other songs that were pre-released for this
No,
album?
I like all the other ones.
Okay, so I am remembering wrong. Cool.
Yeah, there's also another really good one is called he has one called YYY. That's so good.
Why the
Yeah.
fuck did I think that you didn't like them? I don't know what's wrong in my
I don't
head.
know.
Sorry.
No, Heart of Gold is so good.
I,
That's definitely a hot track.
yeah, cool.
It's so sad, but so good.
And
I'm
I
ready
mean,
to hear
you're
it.
also still in your hot track bag from last week because you are still so deep in Sorry Mom.
Oh yes, the Kelsey song. Yeah, for sure, for sure, for sure, for sharks.
It has
For
sunk
sharks.
its teeth in you.
100%.
Okay.
Also, low-key kind of surprised that there's no collabs on Shawn Mendes' new album.
Yeah, crazy.
He does
Just
collabs
something
quite
I
a bit,
noticed.
doesn't he, Drew?
I feel like, yeah.
There's usually yeah like one or two. Um, yeah, like the last album he collabed with Justin, and then
There's
the
like a
one before
there's a
he
few
did.
on that one, right? On the self-titled.
I think only that one. Oh, self-titled. There's one with Khalid and Julia Michaels, your favorite
That's right.
person.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, God. Don't bring that up again.
Yeah. So, but I love that song with Julia Michaels, so I don't
I
know
haven't
about
listened
that.
to it in a while. I like that album. You know I like that album.
Yeah, it's good. It's
Um,
definitely, I think, his best
you know I
going into
want
this.
Wonder was not my tea.
Well, it was my tea, but it's fine.
I know it was your tea, and I'm a good friend, and I listened to the whole thing.
Yep. And
Drew and
Maria
I,
got scared listening to it.
wait, why did I get scared?
You want me to bring up this story? I'll tell it fast. So, and in Wonder, there's a lot of songs that like it's very orchestral in the
I
production.
know the story actually. You've told me
And
before. Sorry.
sorry, my Siri just went off.
Oh,
It's very orchestral in the production, and there's a lot of times where like the production will go out and then come back and burst really loud.
Yeah.
And there's a song called Always Been You. And Maria listened to it and she texted me. She's like, I literally stopped listening to it because it was so loud. Like it went, it goes quiet and then like jumps at you a little bit. And Maria got so mad listening to it. She's like, I'm done. Do you remember that?
I fully don't remember
Oh my
that.
God.
That's crazy. But I remember though, Drew, because this was COVID, and I remember you were like, "Do you want to listen to it together?" And it was my first time listening to it, and we like pressed play at the same time. And we were listening to it together. So I
And that
imagine that was when
happened.
that
You
had
got
happened.
so mad.
That's actually so
But
funny.
the thing is the album has a lot of those moments, like
Right.
a
I
lot
on
of
and
like
that song,
bursts.
that's song number 11. So by that point, I was probably fed up
You
with
were
his
fed
crap.
up. You were very fed up.
So makes sense. That sounds like
uh,
something I would do.
that is so funny.
Well, without further ado.
Okay, on that note, I think it's time to get into the album of the week, shall we?
Yes.
Sure.
So this album, I'm so excited about it. We are doing The Great Impersonator by Halsey. This has been one of my favorite albums released this year and kind of unexpectedly became part of our Pop Girly schedule. We were originally going to do a different album this week, but then when the album came out, I think we all kind of were like, okay, we need to talk about this. This has obviously been such a great year for music, but I think in my mind, this album is one of the albums that has like the most to discuss. And I think this is a great album to talk about with people just because there's so much going on and there's so many layers. And yeah, there's just like a lot to dig into. Uh I have a pretty lengthy thesis that Drew alluded to earlier, prepared. So, listeners, please, if you don't like the sound of my voice, you can listen on like double speed or something. I'm so sorry. And like as always, obs, Drew and Maria, pop in whenever you want. Um,
Yeah.
so kind of before we get into the album itself, I thought that it was important to kind of like have a little bit of a background, and maybe a bit more background than I would normally do. Because even though Halsey is such like a well-known mainstream artist with multiple number one hits to her name, I think it's important to establish her identity as an artist before diving into this album, because this album is basically an exploration of identity and all the ways that we can meld and play with our identities. So I thought it was important that everybody was kind of on the same page of who Halsey is. And then also, just for clarification, Halsey uses she, they pronouns. And so I'm going to be making an effort to alternate between those two and use them interchangeably, throughout my spiel and just throughout the episode. So just to kind of make sure no one's confused. Okay. Oh, also, I should do a caveat. There are so many fucking names I don't know how to pronounce. Every name involved in this spiel is the weirdest name of all time. So I'm so sorry to anyone. Not weirdest name, but just names that are unfamiliar to me phonetically. So I so apologize. Like I'm gonna get start right off the bat because Halsey's real name, she was not born Halsey. She was born Ashley Frangipane. I think that's how you would say it, like the Italian pronunciation. In New Jersey. She's Italian and Hungarian on her mom's side, and then she is black on her dad's side, making her biracial. And early in their career, they defined themselves as tri-bi in an interview to the New York Times, biracial, bisexual, and bipolar. She was mocked a lot for that at the time. People kind of found that cringe, but I think it's interesting because all three of those identities play a huge part in their artistry and in their music. They adopted the stage name of Halsey when they were 17 and romantically involved with an older man who lived near the Halsey Street Station in Brooklyn. Halsey is also an anagram of her name, Ashley, which is kind of like perfect. She refers to Badlands. Hope. Oh, this dual identity is something that she plays with throughout her career, Halsey versus Ashley. And so, in her mind, Badlands, Hopeless Fountain Kingdom, and If I Can't Have Love, I Want Power are Halsey albums, and then Manic and The Great Impersonator are Ashley albums. Their career was birthed out of the Tumblr scene of the early 2010s. They were a huge presence on Tumblr just as like a user before they transitioned into being an artist. And like aesthetically, that style that she emerged with was very much in line with like the Tumblr core of that time. So like the Lana, Marina, Lord, that kind of vibe. Since her debut EP, Room 93, which was released in 2014, they have released 5 albums. I think that their status as an artist is a bit hard to pin down because she has had so many moments of major commercial success, and like she regularly sells out arenas. I think that her name is pretty recognizable to people, but you also like can't put her in the same like main pop girl lane as someone like Ariana, who debuted just a year before Halsey did. There's just something about Halsey that is she kind of does have the air of a cult artist, specifically with her relationship with her fans, the kind of weirdness of all of her albums. Um, Obviously she's had moments of commercial success, but she doesn't really seem to be super interested in that all the time. I think she's kind of an interesting person to categorize. I don't really think she fits fully into an alt lane or like a pop star lane.
It's also weirdly how she's commercial because she also has that huge makeup line too.
Yeah, 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 yeah. About
Yeah,
face.
yeah,
Their stuff, I mean, I don't wear makeup, but their stuff looks really cool. Um,
Yeah.
I
yeah.
I like the packaging and all that
It
stuff.
very much fits her identity as an artist too.
Cool.
It looks really
Totally.
cool.
Yeah.
So yeah, the way that I described it was she's a cult artist who has had flirtations with huge pop stardom. Which I feel like is a pretty fair description of kind of her
That's a good,
status.
yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So then context specifically for this album, and there's quite a bit of it. So this is their first release since 2021's If I Can't Have Love, I Want Power, which she described as a
So good.
so good, and she described it as a concept album about the quote unquote the joys and horrors of pregnancy and childbirth. And so right before that album came out, obviously the album was already made, but right before it came out, she gave birth to her son Ender. Um, but prior to the Great Impersonator, they split with their son's father. I think you pronounce his name Aleve Aiden. It was described as amicable at the time, but a lot of this record suggests that wasn't the case. There's suggestions of infidelity on his part and some serious emotional manipulation. She is now engaged to Beck from Victorious, which I think is
Yes.
they are such a cute couple. They are
Yeah.
such a cute couple. Um, Another big development was that she split from her longtime label, Capitol Records, and she joined Columbia Records. I don't think her relationship with Capitol was ever great, and there was just some kind of like drama uh, in I believe 2022 about the standalone single that she wanted to release that kind of soured that relationship. So now she's with Columbia. I think Columbia is just a better label too in general. Um, but the biggest development and the biggest life change was their health. So in June of this year, they announced that they had received two diagnoses over the last 2 years. These are the words from her statement. I realize everyone is catching up with news I've held in for a very long time, and I wasn't sure how much I wanted to share. You've all been so kind, so I want to share a bit more. In 2022, I was first diagnosed with lupus, SLE, and then a rare T cell lymphoproliferative disorder, both of which are currently being managed or in remission, and both of which I will likely have for the duration of my life. And so I want to give a bit of background on her specific conditions. So, per the NIH, lymphoproliferative disorders occur when there is, quote, an uncontrolled production of lymphocytes that cause monoclonal lymphocytosis, lymphadenopathy, and bone marrow infiltration, end quote. The National Cancer Institute defines a lymphocyte as a type of white blood cell that is made in the bone marrow and is found in blood and in lymph tissue. There are two kinds of lymphocytes, and the kind that her disorder is with, the T cell lymphocytes, help kill tumor cells and help control immune responses. So, an example of this kind of disorder is like leukemia. Uh, Halsey could have leukemia. They didn't specify like what specific disorder they have. I think a lot of people kind of assume that that's what she's been going through, but she hasn't clarified that. These kinds of disorders are especially common in people with compromised immune systems, which leads us to the next diagnosis of lupus. So, also per the NIH, lupus is an autoimmune disease that occurs when the immune system, which normally helps protect the body from infection and disease, attacks its own tissues. Additionally, these attacks cause inflammation and, in some cases, permanent tissue damage, which can be widespread, affecting the skin, joints, heart, lung, kidneys, circulating blood cells, and brain. This disease is famously very hard to diagnose because it mimics the symptoms of so many other conditions. A lot of people live with lupus for a long time before they're actually diagnosed with it. And what's interesting is the nickname for this disease within the medical community is the Great Imitator because of that, which I think is obviously very much related to the title of this album and the concept of it. So again, just I
Hmm.
think another really smart, interesting layer. Um, so yeah, obviously both are two really horrible things, and I think the combination of them happening at the same time. And she's also been very open about health struggles in the past. She's had quite a bit, but this was kind of a next level. Uh, just really horrible, and it's really wonderful that she's getting managed and has treatment and is in remission. So, um, yeah, just thinking of her and her recovery, all
Yeah.
that stuff. But although it is being managed and she's now in remission, Halsey spent the majority of the last 2 years believing they were going to die. And so, as a result of this and the other fluctuations in their life, she was contemplating mortality and what ifs. Like, if this had been different or if that had been different, would I still be sick? Would I still die? These meditations served as the primary inspiration for The Great Impersonator. So, now getting into the album itself. Halsey announced the album on August 27th, and she described it as a confessional concept album, which I think is a really great way to categorize it. She released an album trailer, and this is how they describe it. Uh, in that video, and there was not a transcript for it, so I had to transcribe this by hand, pausing and stopping the video over and over. So you're welcome. Uh, So this is what she says. I really thought this album might be the last one I ever made. When you get sick like that, you start thinking about ways it could have all been different. What if this isn't how it all went down? 18-year-old Ashley becomes Halsey in 2014. What if I debuted in the early 2000s? The 90s? The 80s? The 70s? Am I still Halsey every time? And in every timeline, do I still get sick? Do I become a mom? Am I happy? Lonely? Have I done enough? Have I told the truth? I spent half my life being someone else. I never stopped to ask myself, if it all ended right now, is this a person you'd be proud to leave behind? Is it even you? There's also an official synopsis for the album, which kind of steps more into the concept of it all. And it is Step right up, ladies and gentlemen. Behold the marvel of a century. Witness the uncanny ability of a woman who can become anyone, anything your heart desires. Friend, lover, foe. She transforms before your very eyes, her voice and visage a reflection of your deepest dreams and darkest fears. But beware, for she is not just a master of disguise, but a spirit of transformation, slipping between the cracks of reality. One moment a beloved friend, the next a shadowy nightmare. She is the queen of the uncanny, the mistress of metamorphosis. Beware of the great impersonator. So thematically, this album explores a lot of different things. It explores mortality, sickness, legacy, motherhood, grief, romantic turmoil, family, identity, and the pressures of being in the public eye. Sonically, it's all over the place, jumping between genres and styles of the 70s, 80s, 90s, and 2000s. I think the biggest influences that pop up are alt pop, rock, pop rock, folk, and country, but there's a lot of different sonic touch points throughout the record. There are 18 songs on the standard edition, five additional deluxe songs have been released. I want to kind of point out three songs. They're all letters to gods, and they establish this like overarching narrative for the album. So the 1974 letter sees a young Halsey witnessing a classmate who has leukemia. And in her eyes, his parents love him so much and give him everything he wants. And she wants that same kind of love from her family. So she prays to God to make her sick so she can feel the love that he does. The 1983 letter sees her grown up and in Brooklyn, and all of her friends around her are dying of substance abuse. And now she's starting to get sick, and she wonders if this is all because of the prayer she made when she was a child. And then 1998 is current Halsey, the Halsey of 2022, who is diagnosed with these diseases, who is in love and is a mom, and she's begging God not to kill her now because she finally has something to live for. She spent all of her life wanting to die, and then the second that she wants to live, she probably is going to die, which obviously she didn't, thank God. Um, unlike her last album, which was made with just Trent Reznor and Atticus Ross, this record has a lot of different collaborators, both from a writing standpoint and a production standpoint. I'm not going to list out all of them, but the major ones that popped up the most are Greg Kurstin, Alex G, Wyatt Bernard, and then this was cool, Stuart Price, who is a famous longtime Madonna collaborator. He's been working with her for like 25, 30 years. So that's slay. It's like Halsey knew that
Wow.
we were all in our Madonna era. So, rollout and reception. The first taste of the album that we got was The End, which was released as a promotional single on June 4th as a way to also announce their health struggles and kind of introduce people to the world and themes of this record. The proper lead single, Lucky, was released July 26th. Lonely as the Muse was released as the second single on August 15th. The third single was Ego, which, sorry, I need a Diet Coke. Sorry. Okay, the third single, Ego, was released on September 6th, and then the fourth and final single, I Never Loved You, was released on October 10th. Can someone talk for a second? I don't know what's wrong with me.
Wait, so I did not know at all that on their last album they worked with Trent Reznor and Atticus Ross. That's really
Yeah,
cool.
you would love that last album. It's
Yes,
Yeah.
insane.
you
And
would.
the film that goes along with it is like so freaking cool. It's so weird, but it's so good.
Maria, you would love
Wow.
the last album. I think it's very up your alley.
Wow. Oh my gosh. Well, I had no idea. I need to get into it.
And it's
She
cool.
does so well with concept. It's insane.
It's insane.
Yeah.
No, because every album is so conceptual, and it's like one of my favorite things about her. You can just tell that she is like endless creativity. There's just
Yeah.
an endless well of her of inspiration, which is so, so cool, I think. Okay.
I
It's
have a
also
random.
like the
Oh, sorry.
artistry in the film is like insane.
The
It's like
imagery, like
the
the
costumes, the
yes,
makeup,
all of it.
the everything.
Wow.
It's
Well, and it was
insane.
so cool because like that was released in 2021, so like still definitely in the pandemic, and then she was becoming a mom, so she knew that she wasn't going to be touring. And so then they put all of like that effort that would go into a tour into this film, like a full-length feature film that accompanies the album, which is just
Wow.
so
That's so
cool.
cool.
And like great fans, like the best kind of fan service. Yeah, it's really
Yeah.
cool.
Is the child on this album cover, is that her son or is that just a different child?
No, it's a different child
Oh, okay. I
because her
was
son
curious.
wasn't born yet.
Oh my, forgive me.
It's okay.
Got it.
Crazy good album cover.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Oh,
very cool.
okay. So just to get back into it, since I still have a few more things, I still have a few more pages.
Yes,
Uh,
girl.
the most noteworthy aspect of this rollout was obviously this amazing 18-day countdown that Halsey did on their social media pages. I think that this is one of my favorite pieces of marketing for an album ever, which is honestly really cool because this year has been full of like great album campaigns. I mean, Brat obviously was just like an all-timer. I think the short and sweet rollout was really incredible. And then what this the way that this like generated conversation and attention was just so cool. Another great example of how creative she is. So
Yeah, I think it's like one of the best ways to leverage social media as a medium for album promotion.
completely agree. Completely agree.
So yeah.
So, for those of you who don't know about this campaign, starting 18 days before the album dropped, Halsey dropped a different image of themselves daily, impersonating a different icon every day and teasing a snippet of the song they inspired. This, of course, ties into the central concept of Halsey as the Great Impersonator and the concept of her exploring all the different people that they could have been before they potentially die. So, each impersonation correlates to a specific song. I think some of these connections are stronger than others, but honestly, I do see the connective tissue in all of them. Like, I Never Loved You, which is the Kate Bush song, like, there's a moment that I hear the Kate Bush in it. It's like in the chorus, the way that she sings that I never loved you, she sounds
Hmm.
like Kate Bush, but like that's the only moment. But then there's a song like Panic Attack, which just straight up sounds like a Fleetwood Mac song.
Yeah.
So I have the full list of them because I just want to like list them all out. I have them in order of the track list, not the order that they were released. So we have Marilyn Monroe, Marilyn Monroe's for Only Living Girl in L.A. Dolores O'Riordan. How do you say her last name? Riordan. She's the
I
lead
think
singer of the
so.
Cranberries.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
That's Ego. PJ Harvey, Dog Years. Cher, Letter to God, 1974. Stevie Nicks, Panic Attack. Joni Mitchell, The End. Linda Ronstadt, I Believe in Magic. Bruce Springsteen, Letter to God, 1983. Dolly Parton, Hometown. Kate Bush, I Never Loved You. David Bowie, Darwinism. Amy Lee of Evanescence, Lonely as the Muse. Fiona Apple, Arsonist. Tori Amos, Life of the Spider, Draft. Badland Halsey, Hurt Feelings. Britney Spears, Lucky, Aaliyah, Letter to God, 1998, and then Bjork, The Great Impersonator. If you aren't familiar with these images, please go to her Twitter, go to her Instagram, look them up. They're really incredible. The album was released on October 25th. It was met with overwhelmingly positive reviews. We're going to expand on this more in a second, but most of the reviews complimented the songwriting, the versatility of the album, and just the emotional depth. It debuted at number two on the Billboard Hot 200 with 93,000 units sold in the first week. It was blocked from number one by Tyler the Creator's surprise album, Chromacopia. And I'm kind of pissed off about it because it is her third consecutive album to be blocked from the top spot by a surprise release from a male rapper.
That's right,
Because
because Eminem blocked her too, right?
Eminem blocked her on Manic. Manic was blocked by Music to Be Murdered by Eminem. And
And
then
didn't Manic do like so good too?
yes, yeah. And then If I Can't Have Love was blocked by disgusting evil terrorist Kanye West and Donda. So I just, and like
Oh.
it honestly bugs me too because Tyler the Creator's also on Columbia, and so I just don't think that they should have let him. I don't know what happened there. I don't know if he just like did it on his own. I don't know like what his leverage is within that label, but I just don't really think that that was a good move on Columbia's part because if they had been 2 weeks apart, like two of their artists could have gone number one. Um,
Yeah.
and it's also just like that had happened again for Halsey the third time in a row is so stupid. And it just sucks because like I think this album campaign was incredible and I think the album was great and I think it deserved a number one spot. Obviously, like if somebody else sells more copies, they sell more copies, but it just kind of suck.
Yeah.
So,
I have a very hard time believing that that many people would care about an Eminem surprise release.
girl,
Oh,
don't
girl.
don't let the
Eminem blocked
millennials hear you.
Taylor. Didn't he
Well,
break the tortured poets streak?
yeah, he did.
That's just crazy. But I mean, whatever. Do you guys know that video that's like Gen Z's trying to
Trying to
what?
can Gen Z's trying to cancel Eminem.
Gen Z's trying
What?
to cancel Eminem.
Drew, do you know that video, that TikTok?
No.
Oh my
Okay, so if you
God.
want to see the cringiest video of all time, it's this crazy millennial white woman who does a rap. I'm guessing it's a parody of an Eminem song.
Yeah.
Uh,
It,
I don't know
off the top
which,
of my head, I can't remember which one it is.
and it's
But yeah.
horrible. It's really horrendous. Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's like, you
Oh
know,
well.
it's and she's getting mad at Gen Z for like being upset that like he like says like slurs in his songs.
It's like very basic things to be rightfully upset by.
And like loves talking about like how he would like kill all the women in his life. Like remember that song that he released? Like he just said that he would like beat Lana Del Rey up.
No.
There he
No.
it was like in the mid 2010s. He released this song that like said that like he would like beat her up and give her a black eye and like punch her in the face.
Girl. What world are we in?
Like that's so crazy. That's so
That's
crazy.
insane. Yep, let's put it out.
Number
But
one.
we're the bad
Girl.
guys. We are the bad
Whatever.
guys.
Yeah.
Okay, the last thing I want to talk about before we get into just an overall discussion is I want to go back to the critical reception because there were a few outlier negative reviews, and specifically, there was a very scathing review from Pitchfork, which generated quite a bit of controversy and like chatter online when it was published. So they don't have a great relationship with Halsey. Halsey did famously call for the destruction of the World Trade Center when they gave Manic a bad score. Do you not know this tweet?
World
Yeah.
Trade Center?
Yeah,
No.
because they're I think in like now like the Freedom Tower, which is where. So she said like
Oh, I didn't know that.
yeah, because she tweeted, can they like I don't know what she said like can they like
Well,
It
bomb
was
they were like,
she
can
like
they
yeah.
can they like
She
bomb
said
Well,
the
I
like kill them
basement
all.
that
can
they
they
run
like
Pitchfork out of, but like
yeah, the
Pitchfork's like
basement that they
their office is I think there.
oh.
She gets on her rants, girl. Girl does not
I'm
stop.
familiar with that tweet, but I was not aware of the location of Pitchfork headquarters. Oh my God.
I love
But
her so much though.
I do
But
too. She's so funny.
but
Like it's
yeah.
like I was talking about this
but
with Drew the
she
other
should
day.
have looked it up on maps
One
before
of
she tweeted
my
that
favorite tweets ever is in
and not
2020.
tweeted that.
She was at a like a Black Lives Matter protest in LA, and she was trying to use her platform for good because there were police there that were starting to round up people, and so she wanted to tell all of her like followers who might be undocumented to like leave so they don't get in like more additional trouble. But taken out of context, it's really funny because the tweet just goes, "If you are undocumented, leave now."
Oh.
Girl.
Ugh, she can't
She
catch a
also, I
break.
mean, I don't think there's ever gonna be like a crazier thing than remember when she did that show outside and there was the
The
like
rat,
tornado, the rat
yeah, the rat. That was like,
in the pit
yeah.
because there was a huge like flood and tornado because for the If I Can't Have Love or whatever that tour, she did it like the following year outside. And she like wanted to be really cognizant of like COVID and everything. So she only did outdoor venues. But then one, I think it was in like Maryland or something like
It was somewhere
really
random.
random. There was a huge like flood and like tornado warnings, and she had to cancel it while everyone was still there. Like because they
Oh.
had already opened the doors and everything. And so everyone was like tweeting like how bad the conditions were that they were all in. And then I think there was someone there for sure was one, right? Like there was a rat
There was
in
a
the
rat.
pit.
There's a video of like a rat swimming in like the water that was filling up this venue. It's so funny. And like
It's
Whoa.
so
there's people
crazy.
like screaming in the background.
It gives very last night of Chromatica ball.
Yes, very much that. Which is
When the crowd
But
starts
honestly,
singing
way
Rain on
worse
Me
because
and then the
they were all like, it was not a great venue, I don't think. I think the venue
yeah.
was not meant for a flood,
Yeah.
as any venue would be, but like especially that.
wow. Oh
It
my
okay, the
gosh.
Yeah.
city was yeah, Drew, you're right. It was in Maryland.
Yeah.
Wild.
I'm so
Okay.
mad we didn't go to that, but it was in like the middle of nowhere here,
It was
right?
somewhere. It was yeah, it wasn't I think it was in Tinsley Park. Yeah, it
Oh.
was. Tinley Park.
Yeah.
Stupid.
That's just hard to get to for us. So that not the middle of
Yeah.
nowhere for people who are from Tinley Park.
Girl, fuck them. I don't care. Girl, move. Why do you live there? Anyways, back to this. Back sorry to divulge. Divulge? No, divulge is like sharing. Divert. Divert is
Yeah.
the right word.
Divert.
Okay. Cool. Anyways, back to this Pitchfork review. So they gave it a 4.8. The review was written by I'm gonna try Shad DeSouza. I think that's how you pronounce his name. I've read a few things by him. I'm not really impressed with him as a writer. He comes across very snarky to me, which I'll get into. I want to highlight this because I think it's representative of a larger conversation that I've seen regarding music criticism this year. So obviously, the job of the music critic, I think, has gotten a lot harder with social media and obsessive stan culture. I mean, many writers have expressed fear of publishing a negative or even mixed review of an album for fear of like really intense, hateful backlash from the fans of that artist. That's obviously not okay. That's really bad. And as a Swiftie, I take accountability. I know that my community is responsible for a lot of this fear. Sometimes it's warranted, sometimes it's okay, and I'll get into that in a second. But like there was like this New York Times reviewer who has loved Taylor his entire career. He didn't give Folklore the best review, and it was the reason why its Metacritic score dropped down from a 90. And like people were like sending him death threats, which is like, okay, like we don't need to be doing that. That's obviously not okay. So like I'm aware that this is a problem and like music reviewers should be able to give critiques without fear of getting doxxed. However, I think there's a difference between fair, constructive, good faith criticism and bad faith criticism that is designed to get clicks and be snarky and piss people off. And there are quite a few prominent reviewers and publications who operate from a place of snark and dismissiveness. Anthony Fantano from The Needle Drop, I think, is one of those people. He pisses me off. And Pitchfork does this quite a bit. Kind of depends on who the writer is, but Pitchfork does this quite a lot. And it's reviewers who refuse to see value in anything that might fall outside their personal tastes, Anthony Fantano, or people that refuse to approach an album within its proper context. And I think Tortured Poets is a great example of how this happened earlier this year. Like, there is some criticism that that album got, which I think is fair, even if I disagree with it. But I think so much of it was very, very bad faith and came from people who didn't like it because they didn't want to. And this Pitchfork review of the Halsey album, I think, is guilty of the exact same thing. And it's a really infuriating piece of writing because it reads as someone who is deliberately missing the point just so they can absolutely obliterate it. And that's not what criticism is supposed to be. Like,
Right.
I think
Yeah.
that if you're a critic, you should want every album to be good. You should want everything that you encounter to be good. That's how I approach art. And I think that's how art should be approached. And it's very clear that Shad did not want that. And he did not want this album to be good because he wanted to be mean.
And kind of going off of that, they're kind of on 2 weeks ago, they're very dismissive of Hosier as well. He's a like
Yeah.
with Halsey. I mean, his scores are insanely low as well.
Yeah.
It's
Do you
the
want to know
same
who
kind of
else
thing.
they're really mean to? Who they're very dismissive of?
Who?
Florence.
Oh, no
Really?
way.
They gave High as Hope like a 5.8.
I mean, Hosier, I think he's in like the threes and fours.
Yeah. Threes
It's
and
Like,
fours,
crazy.
and they
girl.
wouldn't. So Wasteland Baby and Unreal on Earth have really bad scores, but their reviews are like what you're saying. Like they are saying that he's just duplicating "Take Me to Church" over and over again.
Yeah, which is
But they
like just
didn't
not
review
true.
Not
his
true.
self-titled album. They didn't
Yeah.
review it.
Exactly. Yeah, it's like you're clearly just you're only hearing what you want to hear. It's like Levi said, like you listened to it and you wanted it to be bad so that you could write something mean and controversial. And I think like I used to watch Anthony Fantano's videos a bit, but like I feel like his videos more so then than now, but I think would fall into like a rage bait category
Yes, very
of
much
like
so.
he's doing all these popular albums that like maybe have like you said again like an extremely dedicated fan base or they're just popular and then just absolutely ripping them apart and giving them awful scores just to like enrage, the fandom or the general populace.
And listen, I'm not saying he needs to be a Swiftie, but like
Right.
he really ripped into Taylor for Who's Afraid of Little Old Me and like her expressing that she doesn't feel like a human and like how like, hey, maybe like growing up famous really fucks up someone's brain. And there was this moment online where he rips into her for that and he says that her feelings are not valid. And then when Chapel this year has famously been very vocal about protecting her peace and establishing boundaries when it comes to like the public. He's been super in support of that. And then somebody tweeted him, "Why is it different when Chapel does it, but then Taylor? Why is it different when Taylor does it?" And he goes, "It's different because I don't like her."
Oh,
Like it's stuff like that. That's just like that's fucked up. So there are a few examples from this review that I just wanted to highlight. So obviously, as been established, this album's about somebody who's really, really sick and somebody who thinks they're gonna die. And that's gonna result in a heavy album. Okay? That's a heavy fucking topic. But this review really downplays and honestly dismisses that in order to criticize the heaviness of the record. They barely refer to Halsey's health struggles at all, which I just find bizarre. There's like a passing mention of it when like that's the central event of the album. So this is a direct quote. It's hard to say, truthfully, but much of The Great Impersonator does feel like it's designed to position Halsey as a tortured, singular artist. I'm sorry, that's a mean thing to say. Like, you don't have to like the songs. You don't have to like the album just because it's about somebody who's sick. But if it's about something like that, I think that a level of sensitivity is required. And it's honestly like the only ethical thing to do. And saying that somebody is scheming to be this tortured artist when they're writing about like dying of leukemia, I'm sorry, that's really mean. That's just like
yeah.
not okay.
When it's also just like so clear that he didn't, listen to the actual album or give any
There's no critical
like
thought.
any
Like it's like
attention to the concept of it because I mean, it obviously a lot of the context of it is about that, but it's not like the cover is not her in a hospital bed, she's not
no.
she's not saying like it's that she's sick. Like you could easily, I think, look at the marketing material of this album and it not be about that.
Yeah, absolutely. And so then there's another specific part that I want to highlight. So a large part of this review is dedicated to dragging the song Lonely is the Muse, which is I think one of the highlights of the record. And it's about
Totally.
the contradiction of being somebody who writes about real people, but also being somebody who gets written about. It's such a fascinating topic for a song, and she's such an interesting artist to like do that. Uh, and this is a quote from the review about it. On Lonely is the Muse, they sing about being lonely and forgotten as the muse for past artist boyfriends. This verse is sharp and witty, and it's also one of the most head spinning passages in pop this year. The verse is I've inspired platinum records, I've earned platinum airline status, and I mined a couple diamonds from the stories in my head, but I'm reduced to just a body here in someone else's bed. The muse's role in art historically, this is back to the view. The muse's role in art historically has been one of diminishment and objectification, but you'd be hard pressed to suggest Halsey is some kind of Dora Maar. Halsey is one of the most successful artists of their generation, and many of their biggest hits, like the absolutely brutal Hot 100 #1 Without Me, carry out character assassinations of former romantic partners with the precision of an M16 agent. There's absolutely no convincing argument to be made that G-Eazy's songs about Halsey are taken more seriously than Halsey's song about G-Eazy. So you have to wonder about the purpose and value of this song. Is it to conjure a sense of victimhood? to make some listeners feel bad for
Oh
not
my
exalting
God.
her genius. There's no accounting for how someone feels, obviously, but as a listener, it's jarring to hear a passage like this, whose indulgently sad veneer hides a convenient rejection of its author's own agency and talent. Does Halsey see absolutely no irony in claiming that she bears the weight of millions of fans' expectations before 40 odd minutes later, reducing her own output to a couple diamonds? Okay, first of all, Halsey's allowed to feel negative emotions. Okay, regardless of
Yeah.
their success and their wealth, they are allowed to feel badly. They are allowed to not be happy all of the time. That's another aspect of the tortured poets criticism that I really object with because so many people try to invalidate the experiences talked about on that record with, oh, she's a billionaire. Oh, she's a white billionaire. She is, and we can get into that another time. But girl, she's also been suicidal and depressed, and she's allowed to be suicidal and depressed if that's how she's feeling. And so additionally, I think that this writer proves Halsey's point by bringing up G-Eazy
Yeah.
because
That's what I was thinking as you're reading
none
that.
of
I'm
these
like,
songs are
your
about
point is
G-Eazy.
proven.
He has not
Yeah.
been relevant in the Halsey world since Without Me, which was released in 2019. Okay. None of these
Yeah.
songs are about him. So by bringing him up when he's not relevant as an attempt to shame Halsey for expressing a conflicted negative emotion, the writer is literally reducing her to a body in someone else's bed. He is
Yeah.
defining her as somebody who does character assassinations of their exes, which I also think is such a fucking. People say that about
Which
Taylor
Without
songs
Me is
too.
not that.
It's
It's
not
not that at
that.
all.
It's about being emotionally manipulated, which people are allowed to write about.
Yeah.
If you get manipulated, you can talk about it. That is
And it's
okay.
also so good.
And it's also so good. And fuck G Easy. Ugh. So like this, a lot.
You're like that video of her getting so mad at that fan in the pit at the concert for saying G-Eazy. She say G-Eazy.
Does she go like, who the fuck said that?
Yeah, she just say G-Eazy one more time. Say it. Say G-Eazy.
And
And
like
good for her.
this review also like critiques her songwriting ability quite a bit, which I obviously disagree with, but like that's a much more valid and appropriate thing to criticize an album for, okay? But like dragging an artist for being upset
Her
about
personal
having
life.
cancer and then saying that she is reducing her own output and then doing the exact same thing, that's just like not okay. It's very
Yeah,
clear
I
to
don't
me
like Pitchfork.
this is a bad and this writer, I've read some other things of him, and I think like he in one article for the Guardian, he referred to the Taylor's versions. So obviously like Taylor's effort of re-recording her albums to regain control of her masters as like commercial attempts at like boosting numbers, and which is not what it is. Like it's she's proving a point. And it's a hugely impactful thing. So he just if he doesn't like you, he's not going to write favorably about you or kind of be
Yeah, I
objective.
wish that they wouldn't review her, but of course they are because they have to do it for the attention. But it's
Right.
just like, I wish, maybe after she said that they should all die, maybe don't review her stuff anymore.
They gave a pretty good review to If I Can't Have Love. They did. They
Oh,
gave
did
that
they
like
really?
I think they gave it like a high sevens.
Oh,
I want to say like 7.7 or 7.8,
wow.
something like that, which is a great album. Great album.
It's so good.
Okay. So that is my whole spiel.
Love
Uh,
your thesis.
but do you see what I mean? There's just so much to talk about
There's a lot.
on
Yeah.
this album. And like part of that is the context. And another part of that is that she's given so much material, both visual and audio, that like you kind of have to talk about it in order to understand the piece as a whole. Um, I think we should take a break from my voice, and I think that we should hear what you guys think about the album.
Yeah.
I kind of want Drew to start because Drew and I have talked quite a bit about this album, so I know a bit where he's coming from. I haven't talked to Maria about this album at all, really. And Drew, I don't know if
Ooh.
you have, but
No.
I think that we should kind of start with you because I think we're on similar pages and then get into Maria and then we can kind of
Yeah.
boomerang back to me.
Yeah,
Yay.
so my kind of exposure to Halsey was so I really liked Badlands. And then I kind of just like didn't get back into any of her other things. Yeah, Badlands was big for me when I was in high school. I listened to it a lot. Um, but yeah, I didn't really listen to a lot of Hopeless Founding Kingdom. And then it actually Levi was the one who reintroduced me back into the Manic stuff, which is when I really got back into her.
Yeah, you
So
really
with
liked Manic. I remember that.
loved Manic. Yeah,
Yeah.
it was so good. So yeah, then I was like, okay, I'm on board. Whatever she puts out next, I'm into it. Um, so yeah, so then I think I was gonna go to the Manic tour, and then I think it got canceled from COVID. I think,
Oh.
yeah. So kind of bummed about that. But then she released If I Can Have Love, I Want Power, which I was obviously on board for, and was just like amazed again. She's just insane. And yeah, I loved everything, like the film and the music and the lyrics. And she's just such a great artist. Like, and not even like a musical artist. She's just such a good artist in general. She's just amazing. Um, so yeah, so I was obviously really excited for this. And I was kind of like, I think I asked Levi like last year, I was like, when are we getting new Halsey? And he was like, she's in the studio, she's working on it. Um,
What the fuck?
I
Am
remember
I a
asking you
Halsey
that.
on the ground reporter? What the hell am
I
I?
think you are because
Girl.
I remember I was so gagged because she dropped the end.
Yeah.
Um, and it was so sad.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh great, this is what we're in for. Like this is gonna be great. So after I listened to the end, I was like, okay, um, awesome. So then the kind of other singles came out, and I honestly did not listen to any of the other singles. And it's not
I thought
because I
you
like
listened
didn't.
did you listen to Lucky?
No, I
You
didn't
didn't.
listen to any of them. Um, and I don't know. I think it was just because the volume of like other things that we were getting in music, I just didn't come around to it. I maybe her algorithm on my Instagram is like fucked because I didn't even see any of the promo for it. But um so yeah, so I was really excited. And then I didn't even realize that her album had come out until like Levi texted me that you were listening to it. And I was like, oh my gosh, like I gotta get on this. So listen to that. And I just like was so wowed by it. Um And I loved hearing what Levi said about the concept and just more about like because I'm gonna be honest, I don't know a lot of the artists that she's impersonating on it. Um, I know like a few of them, but I don't know them probably like either of you do. So it was really kind of cool to see like the photo shoots and kind of see like the comparisons and yeah, I mean she's just so cool and it was obviously such an emotional roller coaster listening to the album. It's also one of them where you definitely need to have the lyrics in front of you and you kind of have to like take it all in to really understand it. But it's also kind of cool because you can also, I feel like, casually listen to it. Um, so yeah. Yeah, I think when I listened to Manic, I was like, okay, this is like her reaching another level. And then like the If I Can't Have Love, I Want Power, I was like, okay, like this is really great, but I think I still like Manic just a little bit more. But what she was doing with like concept was really cool because Manic in a way conceptually feels a little bit um different than her other albums to
Yeah,
me.
I definitely think it's her least conceptual. Like there
Yeah,
is still a
it almost
concept.
feels like a self-titled
It kind of
album to
does.
me.
Which
Yeah.
and that it's the first one that she said is like an Ashley album.
Yeah, and the
You were
song actually is so good too.
Yeah, it's so good.
Yes. So yeah. Um, so it was just so I was really impressed by the concept, but I liked the music of Manic better than If I Can't Have Love, I Want Power. But this is like she's reaching a whole nother level with this. Like it's insane. Because it's the concept and the like personality of Manic. So I don't know. I just think this is like insanely another level for her. And yeah, I am really excited to like hear what Maria thinks.
Maria, thank you, Drew.
Yes.
Whoa. Oh my gosh. Well, yeah. So Drew, I kind of mirror a little bit of your experience too, because I was very much there in 2015 when Badlands came out. Again, just with like, I mean, I personally actually wasn't a Tumblr user in its
That's so
heyday.
surprising.
I know.
I wasn't
I
either.
see, I made an
That doesn't
account, but I,
surprise me, but Maria has Tumblr vibes, doesn't she?
I don't think so.
Oh,
oh, so okay. I
Oh,
think I do.
I
Oh,
think you
But
you so do to me.
I
Like
think
it's
we
like
all sing.
it's okay, Victoria Justice.
I think we all sing. So I mean, I personally think I do have Tumblr vibes, but when it was the time and place, I remember making an account, but then I could not figure out how on earth it worked and how to post. It
Yeah.
was really confusing to me for some reason. So I was like,
It is
well,
the most confusing thing in the world. Had the exact
yeah.
same experience, Maria.
Yeah, I'm like, I'm 13. I'm like, whatever, girl. I'm not doing this right now. It's like I already have Twitter. I already have my One Direction fan account, and that's just gonna be where my presence is. So whatever. But so yeah, I was very much there when Badlands came out. Admittedly, I think The Great Impersonator is the first front to back listening experience I've had with a Halsey album. Because I actually don't think in the everyone's face is disappointed. I don't think in the moment I had actually listened to Badlands in full, but I like know most of these songs. And there's a couple that are standing out that I'm like, I don't know if I ever heard it.
Girl, once you sit down and listen to If I Can't Have Love, I Want Power, girl, you are going to
Yeah,
ascend.
Maria, that album is so you core.
Yeah, I'm really excited. Like
There's a
Nine
song
Inch Nails
called Easier
production.
Than Lying that you're gonna die at. It's
Easier
insane.
Easier Than Lying turns me out.
Oh, girl. I'm excited. I
One of
can't wait
Drew's
to
favorites
report
is
back.
Lilith. I also really feel like you vibe
Oh,
with Lilith.
stop.
I mean,
Lilith is so good.
Drew, have you come around and you asked for this? Because you were always a you asked for this denier at the time.
It's still probably low for me, but I need to listen to that album again. Maybe if we do a bonus episode.
We should, honestly. And then like we have to talk about I'm not a woman, I'm a god.
Stop. Literally stop.
I am not a martyr, I'm the
Also,
problem.
Honey,
Oh, so good. It's an incredible
it's
album.
insane. It's
It's an
insane. You
incredible
would love
album.
it, Maria. We should have done that. Well, actually, no, because this album is her best, but
And it got nominated for Best Alternative Album at the
yeah,
Grammys,
she
which
got
was a
back in the
really cool
Grammy
nom.
game.
Whoa, for the last one?
Yeah.
Yeah, for If
Oh,
I Can't Have
cool.
Love. It
That's
should have
very
been nominated
cool.
for film.
Well, and I think it should have been
Whoa.
nominated for Album of the Year.
Well, yes.
Well, yes.
Should
Would
have
love.
won film.
Yeah, easily. Okay, Maria, so sorry to steal your moment.
Oh my gosh. No, not at all. But yeah, so I was very much there for when they released Badlands. Yeah, my friends and I kind of geeked out over this one. And I actually remember at the time because I was in like late or early high school, like underclassmen in high
It was like
school.
freshman year, I think.
Yeah, the
Yeah, it was
album
like
was
freshman
released in
year.
2015.
Yeah. And I remember I was in Chicago at the time because we were visiting one of my brothers who also went to our same college. And I remember like being on Halsey's Twitter and they were tweeting, they were like, oh my gosh, like I'm in Chicago. I'm like doing this random pop-up show. And we were going to my brother's hockey game. And I was like, Mom, Dad, turn this car around. We have to go.
Wait, did you go?
No.
Oh,
But yeah, I remember like really being like a dedicated fan, being like, I have to be wherever Halsey is, but it didn't
I was
happen.
gonna say it's a shame that we have not seen her live.
I know.
Like that's
This tour,
crazy.
we have to go.
We have to
I'm
go.
sure it would be incredible. We should.
Pop girlies go.
Yes, I hope
Pop
she
Girlies
doesn't
field
do
trip.
Tinley Park
Pop
again
Girlies,
though.
pop,
Pop girlies go.
Pop Girlies meet and greet
Oh my God, we can have.
We get kicked out of the Halsey tour for doing an impromptu
doing a
meet and
meet
for
and
greet.
greet.
staging our own event at the event.
Of course, paid for tickets.
Yeah. Yep, exactly.
Each photo is
We sell merch at the merch stand
a. Wait, no, we should be the opening act and like we just do like a live episode every single show.
of the Great Impersonator tour.
Yeah. Well, yes.
And then it'll be
yes.
just like the Brat opening.
Well, no. Halsey performs before us.
Right. Oh, Halsey's the opener on the Pop Girlies tour.
Halsey
Right.
just found out that they're opening on the Pop Girlies tour.
Well, yeah, because we're doing stadiums.
Stadiums, mama.
Gillette
We're-
night
they're-
one.
Like Adele in Munich, girl, they're building one right now.
They're building one right now because the demand is so severe that there are no stadiums that can accommodate on
None
the
left.
continent. There's none left. They need the Colosseum to get resurrected. Well, it's still up.
Girl,
Right.
pyramids.
Girl, where are they going to sit on the pyramids?
Girl, they're working on it.
Oh, they're
You're
True
adding
the
North.
seats. They're adding bleachers.
the eighth wonder of the world will be the Pop Girlies Stadium.
Oh, that's good. Okay, go
Oh my
Maria.
God.
Keep
Okay.
going.
Haven't even gotten to a single thought. Okay. So all of that to say, I was a fan in 2015.
You had to be wherever she was, in your words.
Wherever she is, I need to be there. Oh my God. Okay. So, but similarly to Drew's experience, though, after 2015, after Badlands, I didn't really pay a close eye to what they had going on. And obviously heard a lot of their music because again, like a lot of their super popular songs played on the radio all the time while we were in high school and in college. So definitely still knew what was happening, but was not an active listener. And really like did not tune back in until we decided to talk about the Great Impersonator. And I know you guys listened to it on the day it was released and really, really were moved by it and liked it a lot. So I'm really glad that we're talking about it because again, like I would not have known that, Halsey was going through again, like all of these medical complications with their health and all of that. So I think it's really incredible that all of this, manifested itself into this piece of art. And again, I think the accompaniment of the not only the marketing, but just the concept itself of impersonations of, music royalty in a way is really cool. Something I'll say with that, which I think unfortunately may have lended this album even more so to negative criticism, is that when you have an album where every single song nearly is has a direct correlation to not only just a specific artist but individual specific songs from these artists, like you said, like Panic Attack is like not an exact replica by any means, but like very very similar to Fleetwood Mac's song. Letter to God 83 is like I'm on Fire by Bruce Springsteen, like almost
Mhm.
identical.
Well, then the
So
chorus of Lucky samples Lucky.
yes,
Like
I
it
think,
actually is the song.
is that the only like actual like sample
I
slash
think it is, yeah.
interpolation?
I mean,
I think it's
Panic
the only
Attack is
one.
so. Does it sample Dreams or no?
No, but it just has the exact same vibe.
Right.
Stevie, do not listen. Do not sue.
Do
No,
not.
do not sue.
She's probably
Well,
cool with it.
Yeah, she's cool.
I'm sure. Well, all that to say though, I think it can lend itself even more so to some negative criticism. It can almost maim it in a way by saying, like here's classic artists and classic songs that everyone knows and loves, and here's my version of it. And I think in a way it can put you in a little bit of a tough spot because then critics and the general populace can automatically have a crutch to compare it to some of the most iconic songs that have ever been made.
Hmm.
So I think in a way it finds itself into a corner in a way. But again, like we're talking about with, the criticism of it all, it shouldn't have to dissuade you or um, I don't think it should give you, an excuse to write it off as like, oh, well, it's, there's no way Halsey's gonna make a David Bowie song, so it's bad, you know. So yeah, so that's kind of my take on it.
Yeah, something else too that I wanted to kind of throw into that was like a lot of it with these photo shoots with like the 18 photo shoots with the different artists. I saw a lot of people online that were kind of trying to say that she was flopping, but I'm like, none of you bitches
That's insane.
could A ever do something like this, or B, none of your stands could ever do something like this.
Yeah.
Like the makeup themselves, like I don't know. It just really rubbed me the wrong way.
She also said that she like did this all in like 3 days.
Yeah, and I don't
No
think that she gives
way.
a fuck about
Yeah,
any of this criticism either. I think like
Totally.
which
She
I
owns it.
love. Like I don't think that she like I don't think that this is affecting her at
I do
all.
agree with you, Maria. I do think that is like there is an element of you're kind of setting yourself up in a way when you do something like
Yeah.
this, especially because I think clearly, as we've talked about, there are a lot of people who are unable to like recognize nuance, and so they
Yeah.
don't like take it as like inspiration. Like, I don't know, because for me, it's like, imagine if Halsey existed in a world where she was like a Fiona Apple, and it's all kind of there's a what if quality that I think you have to invest in, and like these are all kind of like imagination moments.
Yeah.
It's not
Yeah.
like, okay, this is me doing a Stevie Nicks song. It's like, no, what if like Halsey did like a Stevie Nicks song? Which
Right.
I do think that's a difference because I, I think it's very important to note that like this very much is a Halsey album. All of her trademarks as an artist are on here. Like it's not her just copying people. There's a difference
Yeah.
between copying and imitating, I guess is what I'm trying to say. And I
Yeah.
think a lot of people are unable or don't want to recognize that nuance.
Right. And I think it's something too where it's like the people that are saying they're flopping are probably just people who have never listened to their music,
Yeah.
you know? So it's like, okay, sure.
Sure.
Like she
So
sold almost 100,000 copies first week without a hit single.
yeah.
And she honestly, because there was really no hit from If I Can't Have Love. Like they haven't had a major hit since Without Me in 2019. And like they're still selling, like they're still outselling your faves. Sorry about it. Cry
Yep.
about it later.
Exactly. So kind of just wanted to bring that up. Something again, kind of going into the imagination and the impersonation of it all. I think that's just such a cool concept. And knowing the background of what she had been going through, and again, just like the lyricism that's being poured out into this album. And this is just how I'm interpreting it or how I'm kind of just imagining it in my brain. So I don't want to like project this as like, oh, this is what Halsey was intending. But I think it's a cool concept to have like impersonations or imagining yourself as someone else as like a coping mechanism. I
Mm,
think that's kind of a cool form of escapism, even if, you know, even like regardless of maybe what you're going through, even if, it's like something like Halsey's been going through where it's like very intense medical complications or just like being stressed out. I mean, I have like personally, if I'm stressed out or if my brain's just feeling cluttered and like it's just kind of all, oh gosh, I kind of just need to escape. It's like if I'm taking a shower and I'm home alone, I'm blaring music, it's like you could not tell me that I'm not Lady Gaga. Like that is one of my favorite forms of kind of just escaping the day to day is like I'm singing. I am becoming
Wait,
someone
Maria, you're
else.
like that meme. Do you know that meme of it's like I think in like a tweet, maybe it's like I have a friend who is like schizophrenic and like when
Oh,
she's having an episode, she thinks that she's Lady Gaga. And so I always know when she changes her social media name to Lady Gaga that she's off her pills.
oh,
Oh my gosh.
Maria,
That's
are you
oh
that
crazy.
friend?
my God. That would be news to me if I were, but oh my God. But that's hilarious. Um, but like all of that to say, I think this is a very cool way to maybe I guess like an interpretation of what she's doing is like using, oh, what if I was this person? What if I was in this era, in this decade? What would would I be successful? Would I be happy? Would I be sad? I think that's like kind of just a cool way to imagine like I am not a fan of my reality right now. Let me just kind of get away from it all and escape and, let myself, whether it's even as something as simple as like, I'm gonna listen to this music, sing this song, or do my makeup or my hair in a certain way and just kind of elevate myself from whatever's going on in my actual day-to-day life, I think is kind of a cool motif, at least from what I'm interpreting. And again, I don't want to project that like, oh, this is Halsey's coping mechanism, obviously, because I don't know them. But I think that's something I kind of took away from it as something that's a reflection of my own life and something I kind of enjoyed doing as a form of escapism. So that was kind of a ramble. I hope that kind of made sense, but
No, absolutely.
No,
I
yeah.
enjoyed that. So yeah. So that I wanted to say something too. And again, like I mean, we got into Halsey when we were 15. I'm not sure how much of like a younger fan base they might still have now. But I think the concept of this is also very cool to educate younger listeners potentially on like music icons.
Hmm.
That's very cool. Because I feel like some of these folks too that they impersonated aren't in the I mean, like they all are mainstream artists in a way, but some maybe not so much, like Tori Amos. I'd also say PJ Harvey a little bit.
I would too.
I
Yeah,
mean,
absolutely.
yeah.
Like
So
she's not doing people like Madonna. You know, like
right.
Britney is the biggest person that she does. Like Britney or like David Bowie, like in
Yeah.
terms of like instantly iconic. But like even someone like Kate Bush, I would say
Yeah.
probably wasn't known to the average like person from our generation really until Running Up That Hill had its huge moment a few years ago.
Right. Yeah. So yeah, I think that's kind of a cool thing. Um, I'll say my favorite photo shoot, like my favorite impersonation photo that they did is the Aaliyah one. Like that
Yeah,
photo
The
is
Aaliyah
that
one is
so
good.
it's so good.
immaculate, so incredible. And I love because the Aaliyah song is one of the letters to God, and I think that song is awesome. So yeah, I just thought that one was my favorite one. Um, but yeah, and I do like the album cover. I know I don't think Drew likes it, or at
Yeah,
least
I don't
maybe he
like
didn't.
it. I'm
Yeah,
sorry.
I love
Drew doesn't
it.
like it. I think it's cool.
Boo!
I think why I don't like it is because I love all the other images that she did so much more than the cover.
That's so fair. That's
I
fair.
love it. I think it looks like a demented circus act. I love it.
Yeah.
She looks
So
scary, which she's
yeah,
that's what like yeah, I love it.
because I would almost say it's like a canvas.
Yes, that's exactly what it is. Yes. Yes.
Yes. So yeah,
That is what it is. And I love the star and like how like iconic that like star now is, which has the
yeah,
star has that like synopsis that I read on it,
Oh,
yeah.
which
That's
is
very cool.
cool.
Nice. So
cool.
yeah, so I definitely want to hear Levi's thoughts. The last thing that I'll say is that I did really like the David Bowie song Darwinism, but did you guys catch that it kind of sounds like Heathens by 21 Pilots?
Oh my God, why did you say that?
I'm sorry, I
How
had
could you
to.
do this to me? Question
I'm
mark.
sorry. It kind of has the same chord
It
progression.
absolutely does.
Yeah. It's still
Well, thank
great.
the fuck God that she didn't impersonate 21 Pilots
She's like, I'm doing Cher and I'm doing PJ Harvey and 21
and
Pilots.
21 Pilots, all equally iconic people.
Yes, all in the same caliber.
Talk about a
Um,
moment. I mean, that was a that
21 Pilots was a big moment. They just came out with a new album this year, actually.
they were so big with
Yeah.
the Mormon youth that I grew up with. And like they knew them before they like became mainstream. They were I cannot tell you how big they were with my friends. Um
Yeah.
Huge.
Huge.
Okay.
Well, Levi, without further ado.
Yeah, so I really kind of echo everything that you guys talked about with regards to my journey with Halsey. Obviously became aware of her with Badlands. I really didn't get into Badlands that much, and I think part of that is because that was like peak 1989 era, and so that was taking up so much of my attention as a listener. And then there were just other things that were happening around that time, like How Big, How Blue, How Beautiful by Florence came out. Emotion by Carly Rae Jepsen came out that year. Art Angels by Grimes, which is one of my favorite albums of all time. So like I never really became super invested in Halsey, honestly, until like Hopeless Mountain Kingdom was when I kind of really started tuning in. Because I loved Bad at Love. I think Bad at Love is a great single. And then there's a song on that album called 100 Letters that I think is like genius songwriting. And so that was kind of my first moment of like, wait, they're incredible. I also do have to say, Closer is one of the great songs of the century. And I will always say that it's historical, it's legendary, it's intelligent, there's layers, and if you don't get it, you don't get it. But like those who were there get it. Like I remember listening to that song for the first time driving around my little ho-dunk town of Burley, Idaho with my friends in an SUV. And like, yeah, so baby, pull me closer in the backseat of your Rover, which I know you can't afford, like the tattoo on your shoulder. Yep. Yep, 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 yep. Um, just got to say that. Yeah, was super invested in Manic. I think Manic is a great album. Drew and I definitely like queened out about that album in that lead up. Um, Loved If I Can't Have Love, I Want Power. And just, I think for the last few years, I've just really grown to appreciate how conceptual they are, how creative they are. And at the end of the day, they're a great songwriter. And like for me, that is kind of the end all be all. If you're not a great songwriter, I'm not going to be able to get invested in you. And they have just so consistently written incredible lyrics and had incredible moments of storytelling. And I also think they're a great melodist. So yeah, been very invested in Halsey as an artist for a while. And the lead up to this album was no different. It's kind of funny though. I wasn't a huge fan of Lucky when it came out. I loved all the other pre-release singles, but Lucky just didn't really do it for me. And it wasn't until I heard the album in full that I understood it more and it clicked a bit more for me. I think sampling, especially like the kind of trend of like sampling choruses and like maybe like changing a word here or there, kind of similar to what Maria was talking about. I think it sets up the artist because we all know the song Lucky. Like we know what that sounds like. And then when we hear Halsey do it, the first thing that we think of isn't the song that we're listening to, it's the original song. And like it's already been so ingrained in like our cultural consciousness that it's a hard thing to have to kind of deal with and navigate. And I also just like didn't really understand the tone of it. And now its place in the album as kind of like a moment of levity makes sense to me. I wish that it hadn't have been a single. I think it was chosen because maybe it's like the most immediately poppy thing. I mean, this really isn't a commercial album. Like, this isn't the kind of album where they're supposed to be like the single. This is definitely a body of work, and I think it's best consumed as an overall whole. Yeah, listen to the album the day that it came out. I was so impressed by it, and I continue to be so impressed by it. It is an album to me that has only grown in stature every single time I've listened to it. I wrote down a few notes that I wanted to kind of share summarizing my thoughts about this aspect of it. So, yeah, I want to echo something Drew said. These are very dense, intricate songs, both lyrically and sonically. So, lyrically, 1000% agree with Drew. It is best to consume these songs with the lyrics right in front of you. Because there's just so much happening and there's so many words that you don't want to miss anything. And then also, I think this is such a headphones album because every single time I listen to it with headphones on, I hear new things in the production. Like today, I was listening to it right before we started, and I was hearing like new sounds and textures and little moments in so many songs. And I'm like, I've never heard that before. And I've been listening to this very consistently for like weeks. So I just think that this is an album that really, if you invest in it, the rewards are huge. Uh, like we've talked about, she's a very conceptual artist, and I think that this is the most successful concept yet, in my opinion. Uh, I think that like the concept is present in a way both sonically and lyrically that I find really interesting because I think in the past the concept maybe existed more like either visually or lyrically, but like the fact that the concept is now infused in the actual sound of these songs, I think is really, really cool. I love her vocals on this album. I think the way that they use their voice in general is so interesting. I think they're an incredibly expressive vocalist. They can put so much emotion into their voice in a way that I find super, super effective. I think Life of the Spider is like a great example of this. To me, that's a masterclass of like selling the fuck out of a song. And she's also using her voice in ways that she's never really used it before. Like we're hearing her sing in different registers and like contort and like twist her voice in ways that we've never really heard before. I think Hurt Feelings is a great example of that. There's like this quality to a lot of that song. It almost sounds like she's like mixing her voice. And there's like some really like interesting vocal flips that are happening that to me that kind of makes that track a huge standout. So I was trying to think of things that I could like offer critique about because I knew that I was going to go on with such like an overwhelmingly positive take on this album. And initially I was going to talk about the production because for my first few listens of the album, I thought the production was a bit watered down and a bit muted. I think that's something I've talked about quite a bit in this like show so far. And for me, like production is at its like most fulfilling and like interesting as a listener, like when they go all the way. Like I don't like things that are like feel half baked or muted in any sense of that word. And so I thought that like, I think that like they could have gone further with this. And I think that there could have been more interesting recreations of these genres and these eras and these artists. And then I had this moment this week when I was preparing for this episode when I realized that actually is not the point because this album is what if. This album is all what if I was an 80s country star? What if I was the lead singer of a 2000s rock band? These are all thoughts in her head. And so none of these songs are real. they're all imitations and masks, and so they can't be as fully textured or as fully intricate as the real deal. And that was just kind of like a moment of clicking, which made me understand the album in an even deeper level and made me appreciate the sonic landscape of the album at a deeper level. Because honestly, like it wouldn't be as effective, this kind of concept of becoming other people and imagining yourself as other people, and like what Maria was talking about, escaping into that imagination, that world of what ifs. That wouldn't have worked if these songs sounded as full as the genres and sounds and artists that they're imitating. So that I thought was really, really interesting. And then I just want to know, lyrically, this is just really insane. The level of writing that we're getting is super special. For especially like an artist as big as Halsey to be writing at this level, to have lyrics that are so interesting and intricate and thoughtful and provocative. I mean, I just think this is really stellar work. And it already bugs me that this album I don't think is generating the kind of like conversation that I think it is worthy of. I think Halsey has had a tendency in the past to have like moments of like Tumblr cringe lyrics. And I think that tendency has definitely like decreased as they've matured and, had more albums and more experiences. To me, there's only like one moment on this album where I'm like, okay, that's a little bit of an eye roll. It's the like blood type pun on dog years isn't like my favorite moment. I'm like, okay, I could have done without this. But overall, like there's a level of sophistication and maturity to this album that I find really, really incredible. And it's just a level up from a songwriting standpoint in so many ways. Yeah, I just think that we need to give her her flowers with regards to that. So those are my thoughts. Um, does anybody else want to say anything before we get into our holy trinities and our me's?
I actually have one thing, and I kind of need to be a little bit vulnerable because I'll say I haven't been like the biggest fan of Halsey's voice.
Yeah.
However, I there are multiple moments on this album where I was completely blown away by the vocal performance. I think the most poignant moment for me was Lonely as the Muse.
Hmm.
Like I thought their vocal performance on that song was just completely like just it absolutely blew me away to the point where I was even like, how has she not been making music that sounds like this her entire career?
Girl, if I can't have love, I want power.
Maria, do you know
Well,
Nightmare?
actually, that's crazy that I said that, not having listened to a single full album of theirs.
Maria, do you know the song Nightmare?
Nightmare is so good.
No,
Maria,
no.
the second we get off this episode, listen to that song right the fuck now because that song is the exact same feeling as Lonely as the Muse. It's
Okay, well, great.
like before Lonely as the Muse, that was the like intense rock Halsey moment.
Oh wow. Okay. Okay. Clearly I need to get educated. So yes, makes sense.
It's that Kamala video, so I can see that there's some education that needs to be done. Okay.
Yes. Yeah, that's really all I had to say. But yeah, so incredible. Lots of really cool vocal moments. I will say, I mean, if I may, not to like add in like, oop, this moment was kind of maybe cringe, but the Bjork song, the Great Impersonator, it actually wasn't my like complete favorite, but I thought like the kind of little vocal like little moment she does, I was like, was this necessary? Like, did we just need to like make a noise because it was a Bjork song? I don't know. Not to be like shady, but that's how I felt.
I actually love that because to me, I don't
I didn't
feel
like it either.
you didn't fuck my drag.
Sorry.
I don't know. The girls who get it. I don't know what to say.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay. Well, that's all.
Drew, anything else to add? Okay, then
No.
I think we're gonna start the fuck with you. So I want all of us to do our me's, and then I want all of us to do Holy Trinities. And Drew, you're gonna start this train.
Okay, so so I'll do both.
No,
Me and
no, I like it the way that I like to do my episodes is I like us all to say our me's, and then I want us all to
okay.
say our Holy Trinities.
My
Cool.
me is Darwinism. I'm
Okay.
not the biggest fan of that one. I think it's
Maria,
kind of boring.
I just got a little bit
you know,
gagged, but okay.
so I guess I might disagree with Hall. Like when she goes, they say that God makes no mistakes, but I might disagree. Girl, you agree with Halsey. You think that God made mistakes with that song. That wasn't as funny. I wanted that to be funnier than it was. That was a clunky
Uh,
delivery. I'm sorry.
Forgiven.
but yeah, Maria.
What about it don't you like? I'm just curious because
I just think it's boring. Yeah, in the
like
production, in
Right.
like
the
musically and lyrically.
musically and lyrically, yeah.
That's so interesting because to me that's a vocal highlight.
Oh,
I think the way that like she sounds specifically on the pre-chorus of the but I might disagree. I love the way that their voice sounds, like the tone of it. Um and I actually like had a moment with that song today where I like was kind of contemplating life. But your tea is valid.
Hmm.
cool.
Okay, Maria.
So my me is going to be hometown.
Ooh,
Oh, boo!
that's
Boo!
that's wild.
Maria, that is one of my faves. That was like sad that I love that song. What the hell?
Sorry. I'm
Why?
sorry.
So why? You gonna defend it or what?
I don't
No
I feel
words.
like it's this I feel like it's the one I would revisit the least.
That's how I felt about Darwinism too. I'm not gonna listen to that one again, probably.
Like there wasn't anything that I strongly disliked about it. But like I think out of maybe the impersonations, maybe like the genre itself that it found
Hmm.
itself in isn't my favorite.
Yeah, that's fair.
So,
I mean, that's fair, obviously. For me, like something I love about that song is the concept of like it being about somebody who died from her hometown when he was a kid and like he's evergreen at 17 for the past 11 years. Like I just think that is so haunting.
Right, Maria. You're just crazy.
No, Marie, you're not crazy. But I also relate to that song a lot because, like, I don't know. I think you maybe have a more positive relationship with your hometown than maybe I do. Because, like, girl, the second my parents retire and leave Burley, my ass is never stepping foot in that county again. So, peace and love, but it's not for me. Um,
yeah.
so I relate to that. When she goes, there ain't no reason on earth I'd go back to my hometown. I'm like, the only fucking reason is my cats and my mom and dad. So.
Yeah. Well, there you
Sorry, I feel like I've been invalidating both of you. I'm sorry.
go. No, you're
Girl,
defending
what's yours?
the great impersonator.
The great
Yeah.
impersonator.
You're just
Um,
doing the job.
I hate to say it, I kind of alluded to earlier. It is lucky. Yeah, it is lucky. I toyed with maybe it being one of the letters to God, but then I just couldn't because I don't
Girl, no, they're so good.
They're
know.
so
There's
good.
in terms of like it's kind of similar to the
You're
Shanti
wrong.
explanation. Yeah, girl, it's now my turn to get yelled at.
You're wrong.
It's like I don't I don't revisit them like as standalone moments the way I do a lot of other songs because I think they exist within the context of the album.
Right.
They exist
Um,
within the
within the
context.
The
context.
context.
But then they're just too good. Like they just didn't deserve it. And like I
Yeah,
do think
that would be, I
in
would
my
scream
mind,
at you.
Lucky is the weakest song. It still is. Even though like I enjoy it now a lot more than I did when it was just a single because I understand it more,
Okay.
it still kind of baffles me. And it's also to me it feels like the only moment where it's like okay, we can't do like the 2000s without doing like 2000s like Britney pop. So like we have to do that. Like that is the only time this album where it feels maybe a bit more cynical in terms of like the impersonation.
Yeah.
So
Cool.
there's that for that. Drew, why are you saying cool like that? No, it's funny.
Well, we had it.
Well, we
Don't
had
be
it.
mad. It's funny. Okay, Drew, what's your Holy Trinity?
Okay. I had a hard time with this. That's because it's so freaking good.
Mm-hmm.
My number three though is I Believe in Magic.
Oh, that song's
Insane.
so good.
Insane.
OMG.
Like absolutely insane.
Drew, what's your favorite lyric on that song?
th- I it's not as much the lyrics in that song. It's more her voice in the chorus. The da, 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 da. That's
Yeah.
that song, right?
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
It's insane.
I love the lyric when
Insane.
it's like, I teach him that everything's not like it's like everything isn't for free, but like, oh, it should be. That lyric
Yeah.
makes me cry.
Yeah. My number two, I think is gonna be a little bit of a surprise, but it's Alice of the Upper Class.
Oh,
I
Whoa.
go off to that. It's insane. That song is so good.
yeah, it goes
And
hard.
who is she impersonating?
I don't know if there are like direct impersonations for the deluxe songs.
Yeah, that's what I was
Oh,
gathering.
wait, that's a deluxe song?
Yeah, yeah, that's not in the standard edition.
Oh, fuck. Well,
We had it.
we had it. Okay. Right. And then my number one is Panic Attack.
Yeah.
Like, come on.
Hmm.
What are we doing here?
Drew texted a really funny thing earlier in our group chat today. It's
Yeah.
like,
It's like you know how sad this album is when the like happiest like song that makes you like kind of grin is called Panic Attack.
So true.
and like I think the second happiest is like Ego,
Yeah,
which literally has a lyric, I'm
Crazy.
really not as happy as I seem.
right. Wow.
So yeah.
That's a
Dang,
great top three.
I didn't know that Alice of the Upper Class was a bonus track, or else I probably would have done something
Girl,
else.
that's
But
okay. It's your
it's so good though. It goes so
yeah,
hard.
deluxe tracks
Yeah.
are allowed. Your tea is
The
valid.
tea's valid.
Yeah. Okay, Maria, give us your top
Okay.
three.
So my third song is Panic Attack as well. As I said last week, I love yacht rock, and this does emulate yacht rock because it sounds like Fleetwood Mac. So love. Um, Number two is Darwinism.
Drew, you had to know that that was a Maria song.
Yeah.
I guess.
Okay. So that's number two. And then number one is Arsonist.
Oh, that's I wasn't expecting that, but I that also makes sense.
I found Arsonist. I think, well, I mean, obviously it found itself to my number one spot, but I found the production on that like the most intriguing and the most interesting for me. Like I loved the like kind of trip hop quality to it, which again, like we've been saying this whole time, it's like, or maybe more so Levi, with like your explanation, but it's not like, oh, okay, here is a Fiona Apple song made by Halsey. It's like I'm not as familiar with the Fiona Apple discography, but I don't think a lot of her songs find themselves into that like really like production heavy trip hop space.
Yeah,
So I thought that that was a really cool addition to that track while you can still hear the emulations of Fiona Apple isms in it.
totally. Like for me, like
So
it's a kind of
yeah.
like the wrath of that song and like the kind of
Yeah.
like quiet anger is very Fiona Apple to me.
Right. Yeah, it has like a sinister kind of quality
Yeah,
to it. So I thought that was super cool. And I think the kind of like modulation of her vocals are really interesting. Obviously there's multiple different lines of vocals going on at the same time. Some are whispery, some are more singy. So there's just so much going on in that song. And it's also got like a weird static that happens throughout it that I also really enjoyed. So that one for me felt like the most kind of like fleshed out experience. Like I just thought the production of that song was so cool. So that is my number one.
That's a great top three. I think both of your guys' top threes have been excellent. And they both include songs that I really wanted to include in mine but couldn't because this was also very hard for me. There was just so many songs that I could have picked, and in this moment, this is what I came up with. But there were a lot of things that were very close runner-up. So my number three is "Lonely as the Muse." I just think
Mm-hmm.
that that is incredible production standpoint, vocal standpoint, songwriting standpoint. It feels like uh, to me, it kind of like defines their career in a way that I find really fascinating. And I also just I think that they're like so suited for that sound. My number two, girl, she was getting dragged, but is the title track, The Great Impersonator. Uh,
Rory.
I think it's a phenomenal end to the album. I think for me lyrically that song is just like unreal. I love the melody of it. I love kind of like the whimsical sparseness of it as well, and I think it has a quality to it that kind of like light quality, even though lyrically it's a very sad song, but there is a playfulness to it that I find super interesting, especially as like the final song on an album like this. It's not obvious to me, like an obvious like last moment on an album about being sick is like a big piano ballad to me. Like that's like kind of like what I think the cliche of that would be. And this is not that at all. It's a very weird song, and I think lyrically it's just incredible. And then my number
Yeah.
one is a song that makes me mentally unwell every time I listen to it, but it is Life of the Spider. Which something I wanted to highlight is the reason why it's called Draft is because that is the voice memo that she recorded when she wrote it.
Oh
Because
my God.
and
That just gagged me.
she's credited as the only producer on it because they mentioned that like they didn't think that they would be able to like sing that song multiple times like in a vocal booth and have to work on it. Which you can hear, like they break down crying in the
Wow.
song. But like just that using that metaphor of like a spider that you kill in your bathroom to describe feeling discarded by the world and your romantic partner for being sick is just, yeah, it makes me not well. Um, it's incredible. So that's my
Wow,
top three.
Panic Attack not being in your top three.
Panic Attack was like a very close number four. It was, it would have been, if you'd asked me when the album came out, it would have been number one. But um, I think that maybe, I think it hit so hard instantly because it's like what we just mentioned. It's very
Yeah.
digestible.
Yeah.
Where like a song like The Great Impersonator wouldn't have been in my top
No.
at all. It had to kind of grow over time. So, but like Hometown was a contender. Sorry, Maria.
Right.
Uh, Ego was a contender. Panic Attack was a contender. Um, a lot of contenders. There are a lot of
The
these are
great
talented
contenders.
group of girls.
But you're here with us, so so are you.
So are you. Okay, let's break out the utensils. Drew fork. What's the fork picking up?
So yeah, this is like really phenomenal. Um and yeah, I like I think for me, the only thing that I think kind of downgrades it a little bit is like I don't really see myself going back to this album like all of the time because of the material. Um, and there's also just like a couple of skips for me. Um, but like the rest of it and the concept of it makes it like so like higher for me. So I'm gonna give it an 8.7.
Okay,
Nice.
8.7. Good score, Maria.
Cool. So yeah, I feel like I kind of feel a little similarly to Drew. Um, where I initially was like, before I started it for the first time, I was like, I'm not sure if this is going to be something I go back to a whole lot. But even like just giving this more listens to prepare for our conversation today, like I just kind of found myself listening, like listening to it again, just like fully enjoying my experience, being like, oh yeah, I remember, what this one sounded like, and just like being like, oh yeah, this was like the Linda Ronstadt song or like whatever. So I was like enjoying the re-listening or re-listen ability quality of it, if you will. I and kind of like Drew, I know that there's definitely some songs in here that would just kind of like resolve to skips that I probably wouldn't re-listen to them a whole lot. But again, like really, really, taken aback by their vocal performance, and there's again like a lot of cool production qualities on this that I really loved. So I'm gonna give this an 8.1.
Okay,
T.
8.1. Okay, I think gonna be the highest score.
Oh
Um,
yes.
for me,
You
this is
think?
I do. I'm just really astounded by this album. And I agree with Maria. Like, I kind of initially thought, like, yeah, I don't know how often I'm going to be able to revisit this, but I actually do think it's like it's actually is suitable for re-listens more than you would initially suspect, even though it's like so heavy. And I think part of that is because you notice new lines and you notice new production tidbits every single time you listen to it.
I think this is an album where when you re-listen to it, you have to decide, am I gonna re-listen to it for the lyrics or re-listen to it for the sound?
That's a really good point. That's a really good point. And if you listen to it, the sound, it's like an easier experience because you don't have to deal
Totally.
with the heaviness of the lyrics.
Totally.
Um, yeah, I am gonna give this I'm gonna give it a 9.2, I think. Um,
Nice.
I kind of regret, I'm looking at the scores. I gave Brat a 9.3. I kind of feel like I should have given it a little lower because I do think I maybe enjoy this album more than Brat. Um, but then like I'd also given Art Pop a 9.3, which I think is really accurate. And like I don't want to put this above Art Pop or at the same level of Art Pop. So I think 9.2, but Brat retroactively I think would have been a little lower. Okay, so the average score for Pop Girlies of the Great Impersonator is 8.6.
Nice.
Good album. Good score.
Good.
Okay. Yeah, this was awesome. I think this was a really great conversation.
Yay.
Yes.
Okay,
Well,
Maria, what are we doing next week?
yeah. Well, to lead us into what we'll be talking about next week, really awesome segue opportunity because this artist was impersonated on Halsey's The Great Impersonator.
Dun, dun, dun!
So, the album that we'll be talking about next week is Stories from the City, Stories from the Sea by PJ Harvey, which I'm very excited about. Last year, I got like super into PJ Harvey because I know I've mentioned this before, but I started to explore the Rolling Stone top 500 albums of all time list. And there's a couple of her albums on there. And plus, I watched Peaky Blinders last year, and there's a lot of PJ Harvey music in Peaky Blinders. So that also got me into her music. But um, I feel like I would say this is probably my favorite PJ Harvey, excuse me, PJ Harvey album that I've heard so far from her discography. I haven't listened to all of her albums just yet, but I think this one's my favorite so far. I think it's a cool fall album. And yeah, there's just some really awesome stuff on this album. So I'm really excited to talk about it with you guys.
Yay, exciting.
Yay.
Okay.
Woohoo.
Okay, everyone.
Yay.
Have a blessed, beautiful week.
Yes.
You as well.
What?
Thank
Oh,
you.
thank you. That was nice. Okay.
All right.
Bye.
Bye, Shanti.
Bye, Pop
Shanti.
Girlie.